Good morning, everyone. My name is Joshua Campbell Torrance, and I'm the Executive Director at the Bennington Museum. And today we're on a field trip. I'm here with my colleague, Dina Mallory, our Director of Programs at the Bennington Museum, and we're here to explore the Park McCullough House, one of the great historic houses in Vermont. And we're really excited that we get to explore it with their new Executive Director, Chris Oldham. And lo and behold, here is Chris.
How are you? Welcome, Josh.
Thank you so much.
Come on in. Let me give you a little introduction to the Park McCullough. Now, you should feel right at home here because you're used to this sort of environment, right?
I am. I had a career in historic house museums and was nationally on the chair of the Historic House Committee for American Association for State and Local History. So I am thrilled to be back in
So I'm sure you'll be teaching me a few things as we go through this house. We started at the same time. I was the executive director for the homeless shelter prior to this. But I grew up in North Bennington, just a mile down the street. And I went to school at the village school here. And I used to play on the grounds when I was younger. So when I was 4 years old, I came here, in fourth grade, I came here for the first time with the class. And it was around Christmas time, and that's when I fell in love with the place. Fast forward, I brought Amanda here on our first date, and then I proposed to her inside the mansion a few years later. And then she went into labor with our son Jackson at the garden party last year. And then I became the director in September. So it's sort of, we all have, and that's the great thing about Park McCullough is that no matter who you are, if you're from the area, you are connected to the house in one way or another. And whether your family worked here with the family, or you are married here, various things that connect people to the house. We're really fortunate to have that connection. This connection goes back even further because the McCulloughs, really, especially the women, are played a pivotal role in the Bennington College and the Veterans Home and the library and the fire departments, and the list goes on and on and on, including the Bennington Monument. In fact, a lot of the collection that you have at the museum came from the family, so we have that connection too. So we might have a surface connection with locals around here now, but we have a deeper connection that still can be seen today.
Great.
So if you'd like to come in. So the Park McCullough House was built in 1865 by Trenner Park. He was from Woodford, and he was one of the lucky ones that went out to California and came back during the gold rush with $10 million in his pocket, which was obviously a significant amount of money then, as it is today. Here is Trenner Park. As you walk in, you'll meet him. He was a lawyer at the age of 16 and managed mines in California. And now that you got my attention, this is Patrice. No, you are too late. This is Patrice. Patrice is one of our docents, and this is Joshua from the Bennington Museum.
Oh, hello.
Nice
Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, so we're doing a Facebook Live with our audience, so we'll just continue on.
Okay.
That's perfectly okay.
No, you keep what you do.
Thank you.
No problem.
So, like I was saying, so Trenner came back to Vermont with $10 million in his pocket and married Laura Hall. The Halls grew up on this property in the farmhouse across the way. And Highland Hall was one of the governors, and he is featured right here, his bust on our mantle. Highland and his wife Dolly originally owned the property. There was about 700 acres. And Trenner married his daughter Laura. In 1865, they purchased some of the Hall property and built this house for $75,000. Which today would be about $2.2 million. So why don't you come on over here and I'll give you a little look out in the room. Now Trenner and Laura had a few children, Lizzie McCullough being one of them, And she's probably the most prominent figure in the house because from 1865 to 1965, this one family lived in this home. And Lizzie lived in the house for 72 of those 100 years. She eventually married a business partner and friend of Trenner, John McCullough. So that's where we have the Park McCullough house. And eventually, Lizzie and John moved into the residence full time. The last McCullough to live in the house was their daughter, Bess, and she was here until 1965.
How many of the furnishings are original to the?
Everything.
Everything's original.
Yeah.
Great.
That's one of the unique things about Park McCullough, is that everything down to the deck of cards on the table in the billiard room belongs to the family. You don't see that very often. So what you're looking at here is what was known as the gentleman's parlor, or became the governor's study, because John McCullough was another governor that lived in the house. And he conducted a lot of the state business right here. And then across the hall, you'll see the ladies' parlor, or also known as the music room. The McCulloughs were friends with some influential people, musicians, and they often held concerts right here in this house, and also in this room. You can see some of the instruments that they had. A lot of the artwork in the house was actually done by Sister Mary Veronica, who was a McCullough that became a nun. As I mentioned earlier, on a personal note, this is where I proposed to Amanda right in front of Highland Hall's bus. Then if you want to take a look in here, this is the billiard room. So this was the man cave before man caves were cool. I said a lot of business was conducted in the governor's parlor, but I would say that a lot of business was actually conducted in here over cigars and their cocktail and a friendly game of pool. Now in 1891, the McCulloughs got word that President Benjamin Harrison will be visiting Vermont and making a pit stop in Bennington to dedicate the monument during the centennial, or the anniversary of Vermont becoming a state. And when that word got to the house, Lizzie just had to renovate the house because it was not fit to welcome a president. So part of that renovation was the floor. So if you take a look at the floor, these are 2-inch squares. You won't see any nails because they are basically tongue and groove. And it looks a lot like this all the way through. And each room has a different design. This room over here was originally the library in 1865 and eventually became the mourning room. And not mourning as in sadness, but mourning as in this was where the business was conducted of the house in the morning. So Lizzie would meet with the chef, housekeepers, to discuss sleeping arrangements, menus, and that sort of thing. She also worked here for her personal correspondence with her husband, John. We have a wonderful collection of love letters between John while he was in California and Lizzie. And she wrote a lot of her letters from here. And this box right here was given to her as a gift from John, so that his letters made it to her directly. And as I mentioned, in 1891, when Benjamin Harrison visited, part of the renovation could be seen in this room. The end of the room ended right here, and they pushed the room out just a little bit and added the windows. Basically so that they could put this table, which was at their Park Avenue mansion. It's a 1,000-pound Italian table that fits 18 people. And the president sat right here at this end, next to Mrs. McCullough. And Governor McCullough sat at the end of the table. And this setup is identical to what it looked like during the dessert portion of their dinner. The name tags are there where everyone was sitting with the president's entourage. And we know this based on Lizzie McCullough's diary entry from the time that he was here. You'll see a lot of silver throughout the house. Some of it is monogram. The McCullough family had quite a silver collection. And in here is the butler's pantry. The food came in here to get prepped before the dinner went out. Now the house obviously went through different looks and designs. If you look at the dishwasher, this was put in here around 1920, 1930. This was a hot point dishwasher. It obviously is an original to the house from 1865, but it was added in like a few other things. And the linoleum floor can be found throughout the house. Now we wonder why in the world people would cover up a wood floor with linoleum. But that was what they did at the time because it was stylish and popular. All of the dishes are also original to the family and the house. And I do like to point out the silver set with mother of pearl handles. And also, if you want to take a look at this set here at the end, this was part of the monument collection. So Josh, is this similar to the house that you ran in Maine?
Oh, good question. No. So the house in Maine was a house based on a design by Asher Benjamin, who was considered one of America's first architects.
Oh.
And it is based on his plate 54 from the American Builder's Companion. So it was a federal style house built between 1824 and 27. And like the Park McCullough house, it contains all of its original furnishings, except that it was lived in for over 100 years by 3 generations of the same family.
Oh, great. So very similar to this.
Similar, but collections that span from the 1600s until 1929, when the last member of the family passed away. So it's always fun, and what's so great about historic houses is that people have an opportunity, even in this house, which may be more grand or like Woodlawn more grand, but people can relate to historic houses, right. And that's the power and the beauty of what I think is so great about them. You know, we may not live in this kind of a house, but we live in a house and we have things. And what a great way to understand the past and to come to a historic house and imagine how life was, but how life has evolved and how it can and where it can go.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And I'll tell you something you already know. The challenges of maintaining a house like this is pretty vast. We are considered one of the best preserved Victorian mansions in New England, but we still come with our set of issues. The wallpaper being one of them, it's a really difficult thing to maintain. And I say as long as the lights are dim, you can't really see the imperfections. But the humidity really does take a toll on not only the wallpaper, but also even the flooring. So the house is 155 years old, and we do our best to stay on top of things, but it doesn't come without its challenges for sure. And also the idea that homes like this really do depend on tourists and visitors to come through and pay the admission ticket. It's really just not enough to maintain an operation like this. So especially in light of COVID and the things that we've kind of encountered. So right now we're really opening up the house to the public, the local community. First to remind them that we're here and that there's this jewel in their backyard that also has been underutilized for so long with so much potential. So with that, we've worked diligently on getting different events here that cater to various interests. Wine tastings, concerts. We have a bourbon and cigar club that meets once a month. We're doing outdoor movies. And we're also developing new exhibits, which we're going to be announcing soon, that will showcase the family's clothing collection, where the whole first floor will be the exhibit, and we'll be showcasing wedding dresses from the families, tea dresses, tuxedos, and that sort of thing. And I would love to extend a discount to the members of the Bennington Museum once we announce the dates. We'd love to have your members come at a discounted rate to take a look at the house and the exhibit. Great, so stay tuned for that. If you'd like to go upstairs, I'll show you a little bit up there. So right next to this grandfather clock, you'll see the original blueprint designs of the house and the carriage barn.
And do you know Chris, the artist, of some of these paintings?
Most of them we don't. In some cases we do, and in some cases the frames are actually worth more than the paintings themselves. But we do have a nice collection of artwork that was purchased by the family at various trips across the country and the world, actually. So I'll take you to the two bedrooms at the end. Trunner Park on the right and the McCulloughs on the left.
So I'm assuming they took the grand tour of Europe quite
yes.
often.
Yeah, often. Spain and Italy, France were popular destinations. So Trenner lived here with Laura. And as I mentioned, everything, even down to the spectacles, is owned by the family. The family gave the house to the association in 1867 for $1, with the idea that it would be maintained as a museum for public enjoyment. Lizzie was 16 years old when she moved in the house with her parents, and she used this bedroom over here. Also the room that the president stayed in when he was here. So this was actually Lizzie's bedroom, right? The entire time that she was here, from 16 until she passed away. She lived in the house for 72 years.
So one of the great things about Victorian style homes from really 1845 on, as the Greek revival leaves us, is that the Victorian age, people start making rooms for specific purposes, as opposed to earlier homes when, for example, bedrooms were used as much as family rooms as they were bedrooms. And so I love Victorian houses because they remind us so much more of our time today, and I think you would all agree, And I think, Chris, what a great, I could easily live in this house now.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful house, wonderfully laid out, incredible light throughout the entire house. And who wouldn't want to have a beautiful fireplace like this in their own?
Yeah, most of their fireplaces actually are Italian marble, which we've always thought was sort of interesting because we have marble right in our own backyard, Vermont marble. But there was a certain uniqueness to the Italian marble that attracted them. I'll point out the secretary desk in the bay that was given to Lizzie by her parents. And it's probably one of my favorite spots in the house because it does offer a nice view of the lawn and the mountains in the background.
Of course, inquiring minds want to know, Chris, if you lived in this house, which room would you have for your bedroom?
Do you know, honestly, there is a room on.
All right, well, we got to see that. And here's a great bathroom.
Yeah. The third floor, I think, offers the best views because it is over the tree line. So if I had to pick of one of these 35 rooms, it would be the one on the right above Lizzie's on the third floor. Take note of the linoleum in here also. This was a design choice. I'm not entirely sure when it came in, but also the wallpaper is a little more modern than the rest of it.
The sink here, Dana, show them what an incredible sink.
Yeah. That's marble with gold leaf design. And this was actually Turner Park's dressing room. There was a leather barber's chair in here at one point where he used to get his haircut and get ready.
All right, Dina, what room do you want to live in?
It depends on how many maids I get.
I'd like to point out, because you had talked about how their bedrooms became sort of living space. This is Laura's room. So yeah, she had the master room, but she also had her own bathroom and boudoir, really. And she entertained family members. She had her tea and her breakfast in the morning in this room. And actually, Trenner used this room as his bedroom when Laura passed away. What's interesting about this room is it's the only room that has a bathroom in the exterior of the house, which is why they put the window into this room and the skylight. So the window actually is functional to let the heat in, and the skylight, which was not necessarily something that you saw in residential homes at the time, but to offer a little extra light. And also, Lizzie put in an elevator in her older years. Usually people downsize when they get older. In this case, Lizzie adapted the house so that she could still use it functionally. So this was put in the billiard room and comes up right here. So before the 1891 renovation, this section right here was actually an apartment. Highland Hall and Dolly lived in it. And this was their sitting room. Eventually it was opened up, and this became Lizzie's sitting room. And what's fascinating is here's a piece of work that Lizzie was working on that actually never got finished. This is a section of the house that she enjoyed. She would sit and read and work on her needlepoint and knitting and have that view. I also like to point out the Tiffany style window up here for a little added dramatic effect. Now, a lot of people who come to the house, they see that second set of stairs, and they always ask, what's upstairs and why can't we go up there? Right now we have a huge collection of things that have yet to be seen by the public. which we are in the process of digitizing, which is really exciting for us. Eventually you'll be able to see the entire collection, which is about 90,000 pieces, on our website.
Great.
Starting with our clothing, that's what we're working right now in conjunction with the new exhibit. So that is actually not the servants' quarters. That was just a third floor that looks very similar to this in terms of layout. It's not as grand, but it was just another set of bedrooms and bathrooms for family members and guests. So when the president came with his entourage, the family actually stayed upstairs on the third floor, and the president and his people stayed on this floor. This actually here was the entrance to the servants' quarters. And what's fascinating is this is the section that people don't get to see. So this is an exclusive Bennington Museum, Park McCullough exclusive tour. So take a look at this here. The ceilings are so grand in this part of the house, but not so grand here. So there's actually 4 levels on this side, where there's 3 on that side. So I'm going to take you into a room that was used by a servant. Behind you is actually the dumbwaiter that goes down into the dining room for the servants. If you'd like to come over here. There's another set of stairs, but take a look at this room here to the left. This is one of the servants' rooms. This is not part of the tour, and eventually we would like to really open up this part of the house so you can see really what it would be like to live up here as a servant.
Not a bad view, you gotta say.
Somewhat less grand than.
Less grand, yeah.
Less grand, but not bad.
I will tell you that their servants were not indentured servants or slaves. They paid their servants well. A lot of them worked locally, and a lot of family members are still in the area. And they did have a certain group that traveled with them as well.
Great.
Yeah. They're one of the few families at the time that actually offered pensions to their employees. And we have a lot of that documented by letters from their workers. I want to point this out too as we continue on. The small doors here, there's just closets, really.
Doing great.
Good. So here, floor, it just keeps going and going, as you can see. We're back in Lizzie's sitting room. And one place I would really like to be able to show you before we end is a place that when people come to visit, really would like to see, and don't really get the opportunity unless it's a one-on-one with me, because there's not a lot of room. And that's the cupola. So if you would like, we can end the tour with a view from the cupola, and I'll let the two of you go up. So.
And just a note for viewers, if we should lose our internet connection when we get up there, we will record a video and post it. Right. we didn't, right.
We haven't been lost forever.
But we'll record a video and post it afterwards so you can see.
Okay, how are we doing with connection?
So far, so good.
Joshua. I'll let you walk up this spiral staircase. And if you want to follow, I'll stay behind. And you can get a nice look of the property from here.
So
Up we
this is
go.
a new skill for me. Ooh. Oh my.
Welcome to the cupola.
That Mount Anthony over there?
Always nice to see historic house. What do you think? Pretty special.
And it just keeps on going up there, huh?
So I think we can agree that the cupola is a nice addition to the house, but it really served a functional purpose, and that was really to help with ventilation. The decorative manner really is just a secondary function of the cupola. And then I'll lead you back down here. What did you think of the view?
Beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
So the playhouse has a cupola just like it, and that was added to the playhouse to match the house once the dog, the family dog Abe, passed away, because that was once a dog house. And when Abe passed away, they moved the playhouse to where it is now, and they added a kitchen with a wood stove and the cupola to match the house. So with that, that is
What a
25-cent tour.
Yeah. So, tell us, how can people come and tour, and tell us a little bit more about your programs, because you're doing a great job with your programs. What do you have coming up, and how can people come take a tour in this?
Well, first, I would like people to go to our website. That has all of the information and some history and our calendar of events. That's parkmccullough.org. We are open right now Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 10 to 2 for tours. And the original plan was to open 7 days a week. But with this virus that's going around, that sort of stalled our plans to open daily. But for now, until the end of the season, which is October 31st, it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 10 to 2. So check us out on Facebook as well, because we constantly show our upcoming events and some tidbits about the family and the house. And next week, we actually have a pretty busy week. We have the Bourbon and Cigar Club on Tuesday. We have a movie premiere that is sponsored by the AAUW. That's From Corsets to Combinations. It's a movie that they filmed here about women's suffrage and the fashion during that time. We have a fundraiser on the 22nd of August, which is a dinner and a movie. We have a 20-foot movie screen out on the lawn. On the 21st, we have local children's book author Sandra Magsamen, who will be doing a reading with children on the property. And then all of September, every Friday, we have an outdoor movie series. There's so much to share. It's better off that you go to the website and take a look at what we have to offer.
Well, I'd like to not only thank Chris, but really applaud as a historic house person. I think you're knocking it out of the park with your programming, and really historic houses, the future of them even before COVID were really about connecting deeper and more meaningfully to their community, beyond just the Velvet Rope tour, and you're very much doing that. And so applaud to you, and what a magnificent house. We at the Bennington Museum look forward to working with the Park McCullough House very closely in the years ahead, and to be back often, and we hope to see you here. And perhaps see you at the Bennington Museum as well. But thank you so much for tuning in. Please go visit the Park McCullough website and support them and show them, come out to their events. And, you know, all of us in this cultural community and this creative community here, we're going to work together and we're going to get through this, and we're going to be stronger and better on the other side of it. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you, and I also want to applaud you and welcome you to the area.
Thank you.
And what you're doing at the museum is fantastic and definitely needed. And I think between Park McCullough and the museum, it's easy for the public to see the two of us bringing life back into the history of this area, and we certainly couldn't do it without your leadership. So
here we are. Stay strong, everyone. Stay healthy, and as we like to say at the Bennington Museum, stay creative. Be well.